Good morning, Year 4. It's Wednesday and 13th of May. So we're on week 4, lesson 3, introducing line graphs. All right, and this is the first time that you will have been interpreting and understanding line graphs. So I want to go through how line graphs are drawn and what type of data they should show. Okay, so line graphs are used to show continuous data, right? And that means it's something that changes continuously, all right? So, for example, we might have height, okay, weight, temperature, distance, population. Okay, so these things change and you can track them and plot them on a line graph because they're changing all the time, and that's why we use a line graph to show continuous data. Okay, now you're going to need a sharp pencil, a ruler, and if you don't have a ruler, see if you can print off some paper with about a centimetre grid on it. Okay, you can find, you could either make your own in Word or using a table, or probably easier just to Google A4 paper with a centimetre grid, and then maybe have a look on images and see what you find. Okay, but hopefully if you've got a sharp pencil and ruler, that will be fine. Okay, okay, so this is the data that we're going to plot on a line graph. Okay, I've just made it up. All right, so the table shows the distance travelled, should say, by a person during a charity walking race. Right, the first row shows the time, okay, going up, and the second row shows the distance they walked in kilometres. All right, so start by drawing a line going down that's 10 centimetres long and mark off each centimetre with a small dot. Okay, mark off each centimetre interval. Okay, and that's going to be our y-axis of a graph. And then draw a horizontal line for the x-axis, okay, and mark off every 2 centimetres, okay, so you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18 centimetres. All right, so that's going to form our axes of our graph. Okay, it's a bit of a pain because it keeps changing the focus. Now the time is going to go along the x-axis, and the distance travelled is going to go on the y-axis. So if we just have a look, the x-axis is going to be easy for us to do, okay, because we've got 1200 hours, 1300 hours, 1400 hours, just going up until we get to 1700 hours, okay? So do that now. So the x-axis now looks like this, and I've continued going up even though our data stops at 1900 hours. I've continued going up to 20 and 21, and I'll explain why later. Okay, so now we're going to do the y-axis. Okay, but we're really going to need to think about what our y-axis, what scale our y-axis is going to go up in, because it could go up in ones. All right, so we would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that would get us to 10 kilometers. But you can see from the data in the table that it needs to go up to 30 kilometers. Okay, so we can think, could it go up in twos? Well, that's only going to get us up to 20. Okay, because if we went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, that's not going to be, the scale is not going to be big enough. So I'm going to try going up in threes, and most of you will have realised that with 10 steps of 3 that would get us to 30. So let's label the y-axis up to 30. Okay, so it should look like that. And now what I'm going to do is add the labels to the axis. Okay, because every single graph that you draw, doesn't matter whether it's a bar graph or a line graph or a bar chart, should have three labels or 3 titles. Okay, so I'm going to do my x-axis to show what those numbers mean, and the y-axis to show what the numbers mean. So our x-axis shows time, and our y-axis shows the distance in kilometers. Okay, so now we can start looking. All right, and at 12 o'clock, that was the time that they started. So at 12 o'clock they had walked 0 kilometers, and then at 1300 hours the person had walked 4 kilometers. So let's just deal with those for a moment. So we know that at 12 o'clock, let's get it focusing in. At 12 o'clock, the person had walked, was just starting at 0. Okay, and then at 1 o'clock, they had walked 4 kilometers. So what we need to do, when I've located my ruler again, okay, so the person walked 4 kilometers. Okay, so coming up our scale, we can see that 4 doesn't appear, but we know that the number 4 is between 3 and 6, because if we were counting in ones, we would go 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I think where kind of like forward go, I can then come along and just make a small kind of cross where he's walked 4 kilometers by 1 o'clock. Okay, so now come back, focus in again. All right, so by 2 o'clock he'd walked 9 kilometers and 3 o'clock 14. So 2 o'clock he'd walked 9 kilometers. Okay, all right, so we've got to come up, and this is where it's hard with not having the grid paper, okay, because normally you would have a grid to help you. All right, so he's walked 9 kilometers at 2 o'clock, so a small cross. All right, and at 3 o'clock he had walked 14 kilometers. Okay, so I'm coming up 12. All right, and I can't, that would be 13, that would be 14. So I'm coming up and lining up with 3 o'clock or 1500 hours. Okay, and putting a little cross there. All right, now what I want you to do is to plot the last points, okay, from the table. So here is the table, all right, and plot the last points as little crosses, and I'll do the same. Okay, so that's what my little crosses look like going up through my graph. Okay, and now what I need to do using a ruler is join the crosses up. Okay, right, so I go from there to there to there, and I'm gonna let you do yours and finish mine. Okay, so hopefully your graph looks something like this. It's really difficult to do without having a grid to help you. So don't panic, okay? Now the last thing we're going to do, and the reason we had these last 2 times, is we're going to think and predict how our graph would continue if the person continued walking. So basically in the last hour he walked from 27 kilometers to 30 kilometers, so he walked 3 kilometers. So I'm going to say he walked another 3 kilometers between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, and another 3 kilometers between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And what I have actually had to do is extend my y-axis, okay, so it goes up. So by 8 o'clock he'll have walked, it was at 27, so he'll have walked 30. Oh no, he was at 30, so at 8 o'clock he'll have walked another 3 kilometers, so it'll be 33 kilometers, and at 9 o'clock 36 kilometers. So see if you can plot those points as well. Okay, so last thing, really, hopefully your graph looks something like this, but it's so hard to do without having a grid on the paper of any description, okay, is give your graph a main title. So what you need to think is, what does your graph show? And this graph shows the distance travelled during a charity walking race. Okay, so this is going to be the first video because we're running out of time now, and then we'll have a look at a couple of the questions on the sheet.